Good morning, good morning. Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to Tomboy Official. We're here on day 9. It's early. It's like 6:30 a.m. or so. Kind of watching the sky get a little brighter. Drinking a little bit of coffee. Put in a little bit of ghee, not too much, just a little bit. A little bit of MCT oil. A little bit of almond milk. I think it was almond. I don't think it was soy. I think it was almond milk. Yeah. I think I slept okay. I'm not gonna have too much coffee, but I might break this recording up into 2 pieces for today, for day 9. Because I noticed this book goes, the morning part and the evening part. So far, I've been recording in the morning and kind of reflecting on the evening, or recording in the evening, reflecting on the whole day, or planning out the next day, kind of. So, I don't know. I didn't really read the intro, so maybe, it kind of has like instructions. I think maybe you're supposed to do it twice a day, but I don't know. I'm doing my own thing. But yeah, I'm not gonna drink too much more of this coffee. It's a little early. I want my brain to kick in, but I just thought I'd do something productive a little bit because I'm up, and laying around was not helping. I was just, my mind is just active in the mornings. I think I went to sleep a little after 11, probably 11:30 at the latest, I think. And then I probably woke up at about 6. So let's see if that's enough sleep. Let's see. I feel fine right now. I always kind of feel fine first thing in the morning. But let's get it started. Did I say what day? Day 9? Day 9. A quote by Joe Dispenza. You can change your brain just by thinking differently. That's Joe Dispenza. As you go throughout today, work to shift negative thoughts to positive ones. It's okay if you slip and some negative thoughts enter your mind. This is a work in progress. Now that's kind of nice for a morning, to think that way in the morning. So my intention for today already was, just focusing on my breathing and my kind of awareness of where I'm kind of warped into things and maybe getting a little overwhelmed. But first of all, just focusing on my breathing, trying to keep that pretty managed. Because I do tend to hold a lot of tension kind of in like my torso area, and definitely with my breathing. I know that I'll be like short with my breathing, but I do want to practice more depth to my breathing throughout the day. It's kind of weird. It's something I think about often, but I don't really like always practice it. It's more like something that if I'm going to practice it, I tend to practice it later in the day. I'm pretty bad at taking little self-care check-ins throughout the day. Like, usually I'll wait until I've been overwhelmed for quite some time, or I'll do like a weekend. I think I've described before, like I'll take like a weekend day and try to do like a little meditation every hour. I've done that before. That is hard to even remember to do sometimes. Today I'm grateful for clear skies. It doesn't feel like it's gonna be raining today, so I am happy about that. I do not prefer the rain. I know we need it, but it just kind of gets in the way of the possibilities that the day might seem to bring. Things to achieve, just basically stuff online, some Amazon returns, getting prepped for tomorrow. So I've got plans with friends on the 30th after this weekend, and I've got plans with friends maybe the weekend, or maybe before, the weekend before the 10th. So I need to kind of February, 10th of February, so I kind of need to figure that out. So for the morning brain dump, how am I feeling this morning? Like, I was feeling kind of weird this morning when I woke up. Like, not in a negative way. Like, I don't know if it was even negative. It just was uncomfortable, I guess. Like, I don't know what the term is, really. I'd rather be podcasting and actively using my brain than, trying to let my brain kind of unwind itself. I felt like my brain was just, like, really kind of, like, fluttering all over the place early this morning when I first got up. I was trying to kind of close my eyes and see if I was going to go back to sleep. Like, I wasn't, like, necessarily, like, tired. And, my brain started doing this thing. I don't know what it's called, but it almost, the closest thing I can think of is almost like lucid dreaming. Like, it was kind of like, but in a way it was like trying to capture like some kind of negative thoughts, even though it wasn't like actual negative thoughts about my life, about things that actually happened or whatever, but just like a bit of negativity in the morning. I kind of just woke up with just kind of like some negative scenarios, like this kind of fantasy world of like negative scenarios. And I gave that maybe 5 minutes or so. It was kind of like a little bit of negative scenarios though. And so I was closing my eyes, trying to go back to sleep. And it was kind of just like thinking about like, maybe this person, and then we're interacting, and like, it's not even people I have plans with or anything. It's just like some person and we're interacting, and now, they're mad at me or like whatever, and it was just like things like that, where it was just like these weird scenarios that I noticed were like popping into my mind almost vividly though, like almost like I could almost like visualize it. And I'm not worried about this stuff. Like, I was thinking about people that I don't even like hardly talk to anymore, like not in like a bad way. It's just like people know I grew up around a lot of people. And there was somebody I was thinking about last night that is local where I'm at now. And I was like, oh, maybe the next time I hit this other person up, maybe I'll, hit them up. Because I haven't actually seen them. We talked a little bit online, but I haven't seen them. And I was like, oh, like, I might want to see them, And then I was randomly thinking about that person, this morning, about like some random scenario that never happened with them getting mad, and then we're like in this argument or something. I mean, I'm just like, what the heck, like, I don't need to like be sitting around like even thinking about the potential for this. Like, me and that person don't even argue, like, at all. Like, we get along fine, to my knowledge. I mean, I would assume we get along. I mean, they reach out to me on occasion, and I reach out to them on occasion. They're not avoiding me or ignoring me, and I'm not avoiding or ignoring them. So I don't know where the heck that was coming from. And then there were other types of, it was like themes of like quick, like little scenarios of thoughts like that I was kind of like, I wasn't really dreaming because I was like awake, but it was almost like, that kind of state where you're kind of like, almost like daydreaming right before you're like sleeping. You're kind of like thinking through like random little scenarios. So I was kind of thinking like that almost. And there was this dream I had last night that I actually was wanting to wake up and write that down, but I didn't. So I was like, well, let me just record a little bit about it. Like, it wasn't specifically queer content, I don't think. But it was a pretty vivid dream that I started forgetting a lot about as I was having these weird kind of thoughts. But there were some little themes that I did remember, and specifically the tea part kind of stuck out. Like the tea, like having tea, like a cup of tea. And so in part of this dream, I was up. I don't remember the beginning, but people were talking. There were like maybe tables. Maybe it was like a presentation where people had like, those long kind of tables where they have all these chairs, and everybody was like facing that direction, and it was a casual thing. And there were people on the right that some of them didn't really speak English. It was like a crew of people, but somehow I was with people who was like, interactive with those people, but they didn't all speak English. And there was someone who went up that I knew was some guy from the UK, but he didn't really speak actual like English. And somehow I was standing up there, like, I don't know, I had like an active role in this event of sorts, and I was up in the front at a point, and he started talking, and I don't know what he was saying because it wasn't in English, but I was like, I kind of turned to like focus towards him, and he was talking, like he was speaking about whatever. I don't even know what the theme of this was, but he was talking about whatever he was supposed to talk about, and he starts like referring to me, and like he kind of like looked at me and like said something to me, and I just kind of like shrugged, just kind of like, in kind of like a funny way, just kind of like, I don't even know what this guy is like talking about. Like, so it was kind of like, and then the room's kind of like giggling a little bit, and I'm just like, I don't even know, because he was like, something that he was saying like in his talk, he turns to me and like starts like talking, because I'm like up front doing something, like I was like maybe arranging papers on the tables up front, or like doing something with like, I don't know if there was like a whiteboard or blackboard or a screen or an overhead projector, or like what there was up front, but I was like up front for some reason. But I remember like that I was gonna need to interact with these people like afterwards, and I think there were interpreters, but I don't really remember. And there was a certain point, I think after that, I sat down and there was tea and there was like soup or something. And I don't know, there's a lot of like an intellectual process going on. Like, I don't know if this was like a class or a seminar, but in my dream, I was like using my brain. I don't know what I was doing though. But I remember specifically being like, looking through these like tea bags of a type I had never seen before. And I remember there was like a yellow one, and a purplish one and a green one, I think. I think the green one was green tea. I don't know if it was green, but I remember specifically choosing the jasmine one. But I wasn't sure about the tea because they all had like rips. You know how like when you buy like a little say for example you buy a box of tea bags and it has like the tea bags and then like they have like the little spot where it's like tear here kind of thing. It was almost like that, but it looked like they were all like ripped by hand a little bit more than what would be usual, like maybe like a centimeter or so worth of a rip, but they were all kind of ripped in the same kind of shape, almost like a little, instead of like a little line, it was like a curved little shape. And then I remember looking at all of them and I was like, they should be fine to drink because they're, like they all look like they have the same rip. So it's not like somebody, because I remember I was looking for one that wasn't ripped once I realized I didn't want green tea because it might have the caffeine. And then I was like, well, let me just have a jasmine tea. But it was called something else. And it's kind of interesting because, yeah, like how I mentioned, I was thinking about all kinds of people this morning. And one of the people I was thinking about actually has that name. So that was kind of weird, but I don't really think I was like actively thinking about that person, but I was thinking about that person kind of last night, but I don't really know. Like, it's not somebody who has like a significant role in my life at this very moment. Like, we haven't like seen each other since at least before the pandemic, so I don't even know. But yeah, and I remember being involved with this tea and taking it out of the packaging, and it was like thick, like it was these tea bags had like, it was kind of like that kind of mesh, not like that paper, but like that kind of mesh type of little wiring. I don't know, some tea bags have that. It's like a little, I know some Japanese tea bags have that. It's kind of like a little mesh pouch that it's in instead of like a like a mesh pouch instead of like a little paper pouch, so you could like see all the like herbs and stuff in there. And I was like, wow, it's got like a whole lot of stuff. And I was like excited about this tea because I love it when tea has like all these types of things in it. I thought it was really cool. So I was like, cool, this tea has a bunch of stuff in it. And so I was excited to brew it, and maybe I wasn't paying attention or something, but like I mentioned, we had soup and then maybe like cups for water. And I remember there being like a little, you know how they have those little kettles that already have hot water in them? Like, say when you order tea, they give you a little like metal kettle like that has like hot water. And somehow I had taken that tea and put it in my soup, I think. Maybe I wasn't paying attention, or maybe I was just in my mind. I was like, well, this is hot. And it didn't really hit me till a little after I'd done it. And I was like, oh, like I think I put this tea in my soup. I don't know what kind of soup it was. I think it was like soon tofu soup, like a Korean soup. I don't really know. I think it was red though, or had maybe like a red base. And yeah, I just ate. I don't know if I ate the soup with the tea in it or if I got another one. I don't really know. I kind of woke up at that point, but it was a freaking weird dream. I mean, I'm used to having like kind of strange dreams, but it was pretty vivid and pretty strange. But it was just interactive with a bunch of people. I don't think I really recognized anybody in that dream from like real life. I don't know what I was doing. Was it work? Was it school? Was it like some entertainment related kind of event, volunteering or something? I don't really know what I was doing. none of that seemed to really coincide with anything going on in my real life. I wasn't really stressed. I was like in a good mood. So yeah, I don't know how I'm feeling this morning specifically. It's maybe too early to ask that question. Optimistic, I'm wanting to get things done and not get in my own way. That's for sure. A lot of that early morning situation I had going on, I was like, I'm gonna nip this real quick. Like, I'm not gonna, settle into this and let it kind of screw up my morning, because I already know that I have a lot of plans of stuff that I want to get done. So that's kind of how I'm feeling. I wouldn't specifically call it energetic, but I do have energy. I'm not like, I can't tell if I need to get more rest. Like, this is a hard time of morning for me to tell how much more rest I might actually need. I have a little bit of trouble with that, because I do wake up feeling groggy. But this morning, I don't think I woke up feeling groggy. And how to continue the feeling, I think the breath work in the day will be helpful. I think what I did last night was helpful. Like, I kind of explained it a little bit before, but like with kind of having like a lights out time and like easing into the evening with this like candle situation. And after that, there was a little bit of push and pull with myself last night about like staying off my phone. I was like gonna put it down, and there was another part of me that's like, oh, just turn on this other entertaining video. And I was like, like maybe that's not a good idea, because you're already like getting a little tired. Like, you probably need to go to bed, because I'd already turned on the lights to do the podcast episode, because there was that bit of the reading from the book. And so I turned the light on, even though it was kind of like my lights out time, but I turned the light on, and I was like, if I start getting on my phone, I'm really gonna start waking up again. And, so I did actually use a bit of a disciplined, method. And I watched a bit of a video. I didn't finish it yet. I'm going to finish it this morning. But let me see if I have it in my history. It's called, it's by Hitomi Mochizuki. People probably know that I love her videos. I've spoken about her before. And this video, it's from 2 days ago, at least at this point. It's called Simple Habits That Keep Me Happy and Free, Embodiment Practices. And so I was like, yeah, that's something that I want to hear. And it's like not in a sarcastic way, but for real, that's like right up my alley. And I find her videos to be very healing, very calming, very thought-provoking. So I was like, she was talking about a lot of stuff that I was like, I'd like to dive into that when I'm like more awake. But I also don't mind having these as like my end of evening, end of night kind of thoughts. So she talked about her Wim Hof breathing technique that she practices, cold plunges that she practices. I didn't watch the whole video yet. It's a 17-minute video. I watched almost 9 minutes of it. So the parts that I watched, the intro, the breathwork meditation, she was talking about truth-telling and about boundaries in communication. And then she had this portion about keeping sexual energy clear. And then I kind of stopped it after that segment, because I was like, I don't want to listen to like a whole lot more, because I was already starting to get kind of like unwinding and wanting to fall asleep. She next talks about cooking gut-friendly meals, writing affirmations, making art, and listening to the deep down desires. I don't know what that is because I haven't listened to it yet. And she has a recipe listed about a miso eggplant glaze, 1 tablespoon of miso paste, 1 teaspoon of sesame oil, 1 tap maple, maybe it's supposed to be teaspoon of maple syrup, 1 teaspoon of tamari. I don't know what tamari is. I'm going to have to look that up. 1 teaspoon of coconut amino, 1/2 a teaspoon of rice vinegar, sprinkle of sesame seeds or furikake, and sprinkle of cayenne for spice is optional. And I really love her cooking style too. Like she has a lot of cooking on her channel sometimes where she's making breakfast. She makes a lot of like healthy soups sometimes for breakfast, and she has these teas that she brews. And I was thinking like, maybe that's where I was getting that strange kind of theme of like tea and soup. Like I didn't even watch this part of the video yet, but the part that I stopped at 8 minutes and 48 seconds was where she was beginning to start like with the cooking. And I've watched enough of her videos to know that, sometimes she makes like these vegetable tofu soups and stuff in the mornings and has teas, and like her tea regimen looks like so dope. Like I'm like, man, I don't really know the exact tea that she's into, but tea drinkers, are their own breed. And her and this other guy, I don't think they interact with each other. There's some other guy on YouTube that I watch his videos, and he has like this tea time kind of thing, where he brews tea and just talks about like positive stuff. And I think there's something to it. There's something to that culture of like tea drinking. It's a very different type of culture. I don't really actively drink tea as much as I used to, but I used to really be like a nut about tea. I would get these I think I've talked about it before. One of my childhood friends, Japanese American born, has dual citizenship, very immersed in Japanese culture. Parents aren't from the mainland U.S. I think the mom's from Hawaii, but Japanese, and the dad was born in Japan. And when I would go into that household, it was very Japanese cultural, and that's kind of, I grew up drinking tea for breakfast even as a kid. I got African parents, and we're tea drinkers. And so I grew up drinking mostly, orange pico and like just kind of like cheap black teas and stuff. Usually with like sugar and cream and stuff like that. But usually I would drink tea in the morning, almost every single morning. And it was usually black tea of some sort. But they got me into green tea. And I remember, I've talked about this before. He used to get, the dad is a doctor, and he used to get from his patients all these different types of gifts. I think for for the new year or for Christmas, patients would get him gifts. And I think it was like a traditional thing. So they would get a lot of like really fancy tea. And it would, like, a lot of it would be like stuff that I would have never purchased, like that was like really expensive. I remember having this ume tea. It's like a sour plum tea with like gold flakes in it. And I remember having like all these types of teas that I had like never heard of before in my life. A lot of it was just all like Japanese print all over it. Like maybe they got it when they were in Japan. I don't even know. But I live in an area where it's easy to get imported tea from like the Japanese markets. They all have them there. And I grew up, once I had my own money, just kind of able to buy tea like that. And so but I was kind of like aware of like the types of interesting tea that you can maybe find. So I remember I would go to the Japanese market. I wouldn't get the most expensively priced one, but it wasn't uncommon that I'd be buying tea that would be like $30-$40. It wasn't the regular like Lipton, whatever. And just the flavor, the quality, like I don't know enough about tea ceremonies. I really was into yerba mate once my brother introduced me to it, probably early in like college. I was probably in my early 20s, maybe 19 years old or so when I first started drinking it. And that is a tea that I would say kind of changed my life in some ways. And the green tea just makes you feel, there's a feel to it while you're drinking it. And I don't know of that many beverages that while you drink it, other than water, like I don't have that many experiences with other things that like while you drink it, it kind of can kind of change your mood in a good way or like make you feel like relaxed. Like it's not like it's even kicking in because like it doesn't necessarily relax me. If anything, it might give me more energy a little bit, but I don't really find it like relaxing, if that wouldn't be the word I would use. But when I'm drinking it, it feels really relaxing. Just the process of drinking it. And I used to be more into kind of having moments like that with tea and stuff, but I don't really do it right now. But you guys probably notice, in the morning I'm hydrating or drinking coffee and sometimes drinking yerba mate. Like I still have a little bit of that like mindset where I'm like up in the morning and, my early morning thoughts, I want them to be, over a beverage and, just kind of the beverage usually is a specific choice with an intention in mind. Like, so when I'm doing that kind of stuff before, when I was doing it before work, it was like, I need energy for work, or like I want energy where I'm not going to crash. So I don't want coffee. I want yerba mate. And like, usually it was between one of the two. But, I definitely do have a lot more creativity towards my tea drinking. I just haven't really been using it too much. But it's definitely part of my mornings. Like, it's just not exactly the same, but I do, like to start my morning with like a thought process that's not just like jump into the day. Just ease into my morning with some kind of beverage. And, like for me, beverages are kind of more of an intentional thing, which is kind of, I don't know, this maybe has nothing to do with anything, but that's kind of my difference between, drinking alcohol versus my preference for cannabis. I'm not really so into the smoking, but usually when I'm drinking alcohol, it's more of like, okay, this is part of this social thing that I'm doing with people for like a specific moment. Like if I do things with friends like near like 4th of July or so, that's kind of more of an alcohol time for me, or like birthdays. But I'm not really like every weekend out drinking like I used to, but it was part of our routine. It was like, so for me, it's like if it's kind of special occasion of some sort, I might have a drink. But otherwise, for myself, I'm not really into drinking too much. But for me, it's like certain things I feel like are part of like, I don't know if ritual's the right word, because it's not really like a religious thing, but I wouldn't say it's not spiritual related. I don't really integrate alcohol into any form of like spiritual thinking or practice. It's more like let's party and celebrate, and it's more of a social thing for me. But I feel a little bit differently about sake. Of all alcohols, I'd say I feel a little bit differently about sake. And I'm not Japanese, but I wonder if that's kind of because I was raised around so much Japanese culture that I just kind of have this love for sake, the culture around it, the quality of different sakes, like Japanese whiskey too, but more so sake. Like, I always like even something basic like the presentation of the bottles. Like, they put so much effort into just making it beautiful. Like, it's really an art piece. Like, just the bottle alone of sake is just like, they're beautiful, you know? I mean, I'm not against alcohol. It's just, for myself, I do have like a weird little, you can tell I have like a weird little thing going on about beverages and alcohol and stuff. But yeah, with my beverage drinking, it does tend to be quite intentional, especially in the morning. There's kind of like a way of like starting out my morning just to kind of ease into the day, and I really do like that. But you know, I might get more into tea. I'm just trying not to really buy a bunch of stuff right now, but I might get more into just different types of teas. I'm not certain yet if I'm gonna really integrate that into my life, like at the moment. But I do have some tea that I like that's left over. I remember at work, I had a tea that, it was like a thin package of tea. It was loose leaf green tea, and I had dropped it between my desk. And I remember when I left, not this current job, but the other clinic, and this will be my last thought because I'm just rambling at this point, honestly. I'm kind of stalling, but yeah, I dropped that tea between my desk and the little like wall, and it was kind of funny because I forgot it, and one of the people I was kind of in touch with, I was like, oh, like I forgot the tea, you know. And then he was like, oh, like I'll get it for you, and he gave it to like somebody that I was gonna like hang out with later, and I think I saw that friend later on that week or something, and he gave me back my tea. But it was just so funny. But yeah, I don't know, like I'll see what I continue to think about with tea. It's kind of really, it's really a part of my life that I haven't really been like actively participating in, but you know, some people have given me some ideas. And tea brewing is kind of interesting. Like, you can kind of make your own tea based on what you want for yourself. That's kind of what I like about it too. Like, kind of be like a little bit of an herbalist in some ways, and you're just like picking pieces of stuff that you're like, oh, I want it to be a little minty and a little, like, I found out that my parents are growing fresh mint, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like that's so cool, you know. And like, so a couple times we've had some mint tea from the garden, and so that was pretty cool. I was like totally into that, but that was kind of a couple weeks back, just before the new year. So I think that's about all for this morning, because at this point I'm kind of just rambling. I need to kind of get on with my day. Like I said, Thursday's like a weigh-in day, and then I'm gonna finish drinking my waters and things. I feel my energy's good enough. I don't really need more coffee at the moment. I can tell by how rambly I am that I'll start getting way unfocused if I have more. So I think I'm at a good level. And I'm gonna get some stuff done till like noon and then just kind of get on with it. But alrighty, with that, I'm done talking, and thank you for listening to this morning segment. I'll see if I attach an evening segment to this or if this is just gonna be it for today.